Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have a single story for you about a PhD student who does some questionable things on the weekends. It comes with 4 updates and it's absolutely epic. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Throw RA Boyfriend Disappears. My 24 female, boyfriend 27 male, has disappeared every weekend for the past 3 years, and I just found out he's been lying to me about where he goes. My boyfriend 27 male and I 24 female have been together for 3 years. We don't live together but are close enough to spend a lot of time together. However, it is very rare for us to spend a whole day together. When we have, it's been a weekday where our schedules have just happened to line up. No work and no class. We have never spent a day on the weekend together. He works as a research assistant while getting his PhD. Every single weekend for the 3 years we've been together, he insists he has work. I realize how stupid I've been now, but foolishly, I trusted him. I trusted that he had work every single weekend for 3 years. That was until today. I've been studying for finals, and it's the toughest it's ever been. So I was craving some time with him. Just a day where we could kick back and relax with each other. Of course, he says he can't because he's working, and I shut up about it. So today, I'm getting antsy anyway, and hoping we could at least spend the evening together. I end up texting him, asking when he thinks he'll be back and we can spend the night. I've done this plenty of times before, and he always responds fairly quick. This time, I'm waiting for a while. After 2 hours, I decide to text a work friend of his who's also a research assistant with him. Wouldn't you know it, it turns out they don't have work today. In fact, he informs me in that same text that they rarely ever have work on weekends. Rarely ever. So now I'm sitting here wondering what the F is going on. I have no idea how to confront him about this. I mean, this has been going on for 3 years. If he's cheating on me, he basically has a second family at this point. But obviously that's where my mind goes, and I have no clue what else it could possibly be. Like, is there any possible explanation for this besides cheating? How in the world do I confront him about something he's been doing for 3 years? Since he's doing whatever it is tomorrow, do I just drive over to his place in the morning and wait and then follow him? Has anyone had anything like this happen to them before? Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Adriana-esque. It says, OP, there are so many examples of men leading double lives where they have 2 families. Guess what reason they use to excuse it, aka cover it up? Work. That's the cover up basically every single time. I know it sounds absolutely insane, bonkers, and impossible. That's because to us sane, decent people, it is. But the people capable of lying and deceiving like this aren't like us. And they take advantage of the knowledge that we can't even fathom such a thing. It helps them get away with their lie and keep it going. Think about it. Really, the only plausible explanation that he's away for work literally every single weekend for 3 years is because he's leading a double life. Only a family life with another woman and kids makes sense for such a long-term, habitual pattern. You've tolerated a relationship for years where you don't even spend an entire day together. To him, you're the perfect side piece, since you're willing to tolerate that for so long without questioning it or putting your foot down. You're in denial, and I don't blame you. I would initially be too. You know this smells fishy, and it is. Knowing myself, I would get crafty and find a way to discover the truth, get proof, and let the other woman know. Best of luck to you. Another commenter down below called Sunny Ghost said, I would ask him first, hey, I texted your work friend while I was waiting for you to reply, and he said you never work weekends. Even if he's not cheating, he's lying. Don't stalk him, don't play games. OP responded to this one and said, but what's stopping him from just lying again? Like, even if I confront him, he could just insist that he's working or come up with an excuse. The only proof I have is the text from his coworker. I feel like that might not be enough to get him to tell the truth. I don't know. The comment section on this one overwhelmingly says that OP is the side chick and that this guy has either a wife or a family or at least a live-in girlfriend that she just doesn't know about. So we did this before. If you're listening on YouTube, comment down below at this point and let me know what your thoughts are on this one. Is he cheating, or is he doing something else? It feels pretty obvious at this point, but we don't really have all the facts. Well, let's find out some more. Let's get into OP's first of 4 updates. This update is titled, Update, my 24 female, boyfriend 27 male, has disappeared every weekend for the past 3 years, and I just found out he's been lying to me about where he goes. So I logged into this account for the first time since making my original post, and find that there are a lot of messages. I haven't read them all, but I will. The recent ones all ask for an update, so here it is. When I logged off, things seemed to be pretty split on what I should do. Most people just decided to call him a cheater or say that I'm the side chick. Frankly, I wasn't sure I could wait another day to confront him, so I confronted him the night of that post. No games or stalking or anything. Anyway, I had texted him telling him to come over when his work was done, and he did. I waited about 5 minutes, if that, for him to settle in before telling him that we needed to talk about something important. He immediately responded with, "Uh-oh," which was a bit demeaning, but that sarcastic response honestly matches his personality. I tell him everything that happened, how hurt I was, how I didn't feel like I could trust him about anything, considering he's been doing this for 3 years, and then asked if he had anything to say. He told me he wasn't cheating on me or anything like that. He was just embarrassed about what he had been doing. I asked him what he could possibly be so embarrassed about as to hide it and lie to me about it for 3 years. He takes like a minute to compose himself and then mutters something. He clearly feels guilty, but I obviously don't hear it, so I ask him what he said, cause I didn't hear. He tells me that he volunteers at a homeless shelter every weekend since coming here for his PhD. Volunteering at a homeless shelter? I swear to you, whatever emotions are coming across here were multiplied 10 times in the moment. I could not comprehend what he was saying. Like, he was embarrassed for volunteering at a homeless shelter? It didn't and still doesn't make any sense. So I asked him what he meant, and he repeated that he volunteers at a homeless shelter for 6 hours on Saturday and 6 hours on Sunday every weekend. Of course, I asked him why he would be embarrassed about that, and he asks if we can talk about this more tomorrow, Sunday, and he can instead show me that he isn't lying by taking me to volunteer. I don't know what I was really thinking. I think my mind was just blank, so I agreed with a sure and asked him to leave. He apologized for the whole thing and left, and then sent a text that he'd pick me up in the morning so he could prove to me that he's not lying. Of course, my mind races all night, and I tossed and turned all night, but Sunday came anyway. He wasn't lying. He takes me to a homeless shelter soup kitchen place, I don't really know the difference, and we make food, clean, and pack daily necessities for 6 hours. It clearly isn't the place to have the conversation. So I spend most of my time doing the work and chatting with other people, and they were really nice. But of course, the whole thing was still weighing on my mind the entire time. So I started asking them about my boyfriend, and they confirm he's been working there as long as they can remember, and is there every weekend. He's been there longer than most of them, it seems. Finally, our volunteering ends and we head back to his car, and I try to start the conversation, but he shuts me down and asks to wait until we get back to his place. I say fine, maybe I'm being a doormat here, but I was just so confused and lost. And we head to his apartment. Once there, the talking begins. He asks if I believe that he's telling the truth about working at the homeless shelter every weekend. And I say that I do, since I confirmed it with a lot of people while there. But I also said that I don't understand the lying, especially for as long as he did. He apologizes again and asks if I really want to know why he kept it a secret. I say, of course, duh. He sighs and then tells me that he doesn't like people knowing that he likes helping people. Obviously, I'm going WTF because this is so weird, and I ask him to explain. He tells me that when he was an undergrad student, he would always try to help his class behind the scenes, by discussing problems they had or negotiating for curves or extensions on their assignments, even when he didn't personally need it. He said he enjoyed doing it and kept doing it as a master's student, but then started to do so before or after classes publicly. Apparently, most of his classmates were still happy with him, but a few basically hated him for it because he was babysitting them or something. So he went back to doing things behind the scenes and no longer tries to associate himself with any of the things he does to help others. Hopefully, I'm not the only one who finds this so dang weird. Like, the homeless shelter stuff and assisting your classmates aren't remotely the same. I say as such, and he tells me it does the same thing. It helps people, so he doesn't like people to know about it because then they might misinterpret his intent and think he's masquerading as a good person. Then he assures me that he's not a good person at all, but he still wants to do what he can for people. So this is what he does. WTF? So I ask if he really thinks I would get mad that he's helping homeless people in his free time. He tells me he wasn't sure at first, especially since I wanted to spend weekends together when we were first going out. Duh, every couple does. So he just lied to hide it at first, but he knows I wouldn't do that now, but kept the lie going because he thought it would be too weird to suddenly say that he's volunteering at a homeless shelter. I feel like I've come to the conclusion that he's just really weird. His way of thinking has always been odd, but this in particular is just so weird. Like, he seems to understand the situation and where I'm coming from, but didn't think to tell me the truth on his own. We started going in circles, so I ended the conversation and had him drive me home in silence. Since then, he sent a number of texts and has tried calling me a few times. I didn't pick up on Monday or Tuesday because I felt like I needed time to think, but I finally picked up today and we had a talk in which we both reiterated what we had said. I know a lot of people, literally all of them at this time, were telling me to break up with him, but I'm still thinking things through. I'm going to try and get him to hang out this weekend and make my decision after I think some more. This whole thing has been so weird. I'm sorry that I've repeated that so much, but my brain is still rather scrambled. I don't think there will be any more updates to this because we either stay together or break up, but if there are, they won't be posted here. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called NextEngineering1469. It says, "So it's only 6 hours on Saturday and Sunday? That doesn't explain why he can't spend the evenings or nights with you on the weekend. That doesn't explain anything, actually. If any of that is true, then he's incredibly weird and sketchy. Also, I'm with that other person who asked if it's court-ordered, laugh out loud." OP responded here and said, "I've been reading a few comments like this on my original post, but he did spend evenings at my place from time to time. It was rare, but he did. He only stayed the nights on Sundays when he came over. I'll ask him why he didn't spend more evenings with me on the weekends." So here we are thinking this guy's some kind of saint, he's volunteering every weekend, but then we think, hey, he's only there for 6 hours a day each day. What's he doing for the rest of the hours in the day? Cause there's quite a few of them. And OP says she only saw him on Sunday evening a couple of times? I still think this guy's cheating. What do you guys think? Make sure you comment down below. And if you're listening on the podcast, head on over to YouTube and comment down below. Alright, let's get into OP's second update. This one is titled Update 2, My 24 Female, Boyfriend 27 Male has disappeared every weekend for the past 3 years, and I just found out he's been lying to me about where he goes. So I asked him to come over so we could talk, and he did. I then asked him some of the questions people had on here that I had written down. Volunteering for 6 hours, but still not having time for me. He said he would get there a little early and leave late, but then would spend the remaining hours running errands and actually working on PhD and assistant stuff. I asked him if he could give me details. He gave me some details about academic articles that I don't remember. I asked him why he couldn't spend more weekends, evenings with me if this was the case. He said that he was really busy with work and that I would distract him. Ouch. Out of all of the things he said, I think this is the one that bothers me the most. I asked if the volunteering was court-ordered. He laughed at that and was clearly confused by the question. but answered that given the special population he works with doing his PhD, he doubts he'd be able to work with them if he had a record that required so many hours. I asked if he was ever going to tell me about the volunteering. He initially says he doesn't know, then replies that he probably wouldn't have. He apologized for lying, but then said that whether he was working or volunteering doesn't make a difference to how much time he spent with me. Obviously, I pushed back on this, and he got defensive, and we had an argument that basically reiterated how I felt, like I couldn't trust him, because he was lying about this while he kept apologizing for the lying and making me feel that way, but that it wouldn't have changed how we spent time together. Ultimately, I asked him to explain to me again why he hid it in the first place. Like he said previously, he used to talk to professors during undergrad about extensions and questions others had behind closed doors, and then make sure those things were stated to the rest of the class. He did the same thing in his master's program. This is where I got lost before. One of his professors was a hard butt, and some of his classmates were scared to talk to him about their grades. So he thought he could show them that he was willing to discuss grades, and he made a joke about his own grade in class. The professor didn't find it funny and went on a tirade about respect and showing him up, and apparently the class ended shortly thereafter because it was so tense. He said that some of the other students felt that they needed to cut ties with him to show the professor they weren't in on the joke, and that a few of them made a show of hating him from that point forward. Hearing it more in depth at least makes this make a little more sense to me. I stated again that helping homeless and helping classmates seemed like entirely different things altogether. He said that they felt like the same thing to him, but that I was probably right and he was wrong. I asked him why he said he's a bad person. He replied asking if he said that, and I said yes. He said that he didn't want the volunteering to make him seem like a good person because he's not. I asked him what he meant, and he replied that I know him. I said, I'm not sure I do. He said that I know what he means. I don't, you do, etc. in circles. Personally, I think he has a low self-esteem, but this is a weird way to express it, and I'm not sure what else it could be. I told him I wasn't sure I wanted to continue the relationship because of the lying. He seemed hurt, but then just said okay, and that it's my decision. I told him that he should at least get therapy for the classmate thing because it's clearly affected him negatively. He replied that he probably should, but he won't. After that, I gave him an ultimatum. Either spend more time with me on weekends and go to therapy, or we break up. I told him to think about it and that he has until Sunday. He said he would, and he went on his way. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Frequent Relief 2252. It says, "Are you kidding me? Ask to go volunteer with him. Guarantee he'll come up with some reason as to why you can't." OP responded and said, "I thought about it, but I ultimately decided that it wouldn't do anything to actually help the cause of this problem. Let's say he's still cheating on me or whatever, like some people suggested, as crappy as that is. At this point, I just want to know if he's actually willing to do the things necessary for this relationship to continue." One other commenter down below called DashOnMom5 said, "Here's the thing, he's not sorry he lied to you for 3 years. He's sorry he got caught. He's annoyed that you think it's a problem, though he doesn't really seem to care about or understand your feelings about it. He never respected you enough to think you deserved honesty. He lied for 3 years. Now he's acting like it doesn't matter because it wouldn't have changed anything. What? He works with a vulnerable population but is a manipulative liar. You're seeing the red flags here, right? Maybe he has no self-esteem. Maybe he's a jerk who enjoys lying. Whatever it is, he needs a lot of help, and it won't work unless he gets it for himself. He has to see the need, want to do the work, and be willing to make the changes, or it's all a waste of time. He's not a project to take on. You spent 3 years being lied to by this guy. How much more time are you going to waste here? Relationships are built on respect and trust. There's none here. You don't know his family. He's a liar. For all you know, he does his 6 hours and has another girlfriend for the weekends. Even if he doesn't, I seriously worry about someone who would stay with a man like this. How little do you think of yourself to stay?" OP responded to this one and said, "I've been with him for 3 years for a reason. I do love him, but the lying obviously hurts. I'm at least willing to try if he proves he's going to put the effort in. That's why the ultimatum is there. I'm not very experienced or anything, but in my perspective, relationships take work. What he did was a breach of trust, but not a deal breaker if he makes amends." OP, I know you love this guy, but sit back and think for a second, because can you actually see a future with this guy? Can you imagine raising children with somebody who sees acts of kindness as a secret or a weakness? That's not something I'd want to pass on to my children. This is just extremely weird, like you said, over and over. Alright, let's get into OP's third update. It's titled Final Update, but it's not. This will probably be my last post here. Saturday came and he asked me to compromise. He would take a day off from volunteering if I volunteered with him the other day, and he wouldn't have to go to therapy. I said I needed to think about it. I told him later that night that I'd accept the compromise if he was willing to go to 1 therapy session. On Sunday morning, he told me he wouldn't be willing to go to therapy and asked that we go out to dinner. We went to a local diner and basically talked about ending things. He apologized for ending things this way and said that he knew he wasn't exactly being reasonable, but he's doing what he feels like he needs to do. I basically said that's up to him. We wished each other the best, he gave me a parting hug, and I went on my way. So yeah, 3 years of commitment for this. Kinda sucks. Have a good day. Jumping into the comment section for this one, we have one from a user called Bleacher Blonde. It says, "Wow, even after all that lying, you were still willing to forgive him, and he couldn't even be bothered to do the one thing you asked one time." I don't know what his issue is, but it's obvious it's very big, and he needs to work it out. The guilt he must be feeling for whatever reason, I'm assuming, it has to be something huge, because it just doesn't make sense. I'm sorry it didn't work out, but I think it's for the best. You'll find someone better who won't lie to your face every weekend for 3 years. It's just insane. Looking at the other side of this one, we have a comment from a user called 1010441030. It says, "I don't see how no one else sees the boyfriend side here. He clearly made the lie in the very early stages of the relationship, possibly before they were even officially together, as he didn't want people to know that he was volunteering at the shelter, but in doing so, trapped himself in that lie. If he hasn't told anyone else in his life that he's volunteering there, then he's hardly going to tell a partner or potential partner in the very early stages of a relationship. He had no way of knowing that the relationship would last that long, and that it would be a lie he would have to keep up for 3 years. It's most likely that it was a lie he'd been living with before he met her, because he is a humble and reserved person, and most likely on the spectrum, which would explain the majority of his behavior. The reason he couldn't tell her after they were together was because he knew that it would turn out exactly how it did. She would break up with him. When I put myself in his shoes, the reality is that I would either keep it a secret or come up with another lie to explain away the first one. Like, oh, I've just started volunteering at a homeless shelter, and hope that my partner didn't find out that I'd been working there the whole time. I was on OP's side up until the ultimatum, but the fact that they immediately were trying to force him to spend more time with them the second he was caught in the lie just further goes to show that his fears are justified. He's a PhD student and volunteering for 12 hours a week on top of that. OP is lucky he was able to fit any time in for a relationship at all. The needs of the few here do not outweigh the needs of the many. He was doing a good deed to help his depressingly low self-esteem and help people in need, possibly including himself. If that is a private thing for him where he needs his own time and space, I think that is something that needs to be respected. If OP didn't like that, then they should have ended things sooner. Whether he was working or volunteering, as he said very plainly, they wouldn't have spent more time together. The lie itself is so minuscule that the only thing that gives credence to the conclusion to end things is the time period over which the lie was kept up. In that case, I would do the same, but I feel like I would be the one going to therapy by the end of it if I still didn't understand his viewpoint. Not that he doesn't need it too, he clearly has some undiagnosed autism, BPD, or depression. I don't think OP is lucky to be out of the relationship, as many in the comments have said. I think he is the lucky one. He's gotten out of a relationship with someone who he feared wouldn't respect how he wanted to spend his free time in his life, who then confirmed those fears with their ultimatum. OP is the one losing out here by having spent 3 years in a relationship that should have ended much sooner, and that is unfortunate for them, and I hope they can get over it, and I hope this helps them understand better, even if it is critical of them. I felt like it needed to be said, and I cannot fault them for the majority of the actions they took, given the situation. Okay, so after listening to that and kind of opening my eyes to both sides of this story, I'm gonna kind of sit on the fence on this one because I think they've both done things that they probably shouldn't have done. And honestly, the best thing that could happen in this case right now is that they both go their separate ways, because it's just not going to work out. We have one more update from OP that was posted 5 months after the last one. Let's jump into that now. This update is titled, "It's Me Again." It says, "I'm pretty intoxicated while writing this, so let me just first say sorry for my incomprehensibleness. Is that even a word? Anyway, if you don't remember who I am, check my profile. Anyway, I've been keeping myself busy with school and stuff, but some casual stuff every once in a while has been a good stress relief. What isn't good stress relief was a text message I received today. I should have blocked him, but I didn't, so here we are. I didn't respond to him, but here's the message verbatim. Hello, sorry for contacting you. I am sorry for how I acted. After you left, I really gave a lot of things some thought. I didn't want therapy because I didn't need a professional to tell me that I'm different or weird or diagnose me with something that jeopardizes my profession. And I especially didn't want them to try and change me. I bit the bullet in January. I was diagnosed with schizotypal personality disorder. You can look it up, I guess. I'm not seeing the therapist frequently, especially after he suggested altering some of my behaviors and told me that I'm coping using my volunteering. Sorry, I'm just saying that you were right and I wasn't being fair to you. Please do not feel burdened to respond. I hope you are happy." God, he hopes I'm happy? I mean, really? After everything, he acts like some sort of victim? I hate it so much. Every single time I've thought of him since we broke up, I just get more angry. I guess it is nice to know that I wasn't imagining things and there is actually something wrong with him, but did he have to contact me? Gross. Anyway, I was huffing and drinking and spotted my login details still on my laptop desktop and figured an update wouldn't be too hard. I hope you guys know how to pick them better than me. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Blue Bludgeon. It says, "In the context of his message, I hope you are happy, sounds a lot more like him wishing you well than the other I hope you're happy with yourself that you seem to be interpreting it as. I really don't think he's trying to play victim. He's just letting you know that you were right. Laugh out loud. You are absolutely right to have cut him off, but at this point, you seem to be the only one playing victim. Saying there's something wrong with him because of his diagnosis and calling him gross for telling you you're right and including your huffing and drinking seems like you want sympathy at a struggling man's expense. You could just as easily said to yourself, good for him, block him, and move on. I wish him well. I hope he breaks out of his cycle and learns to accept professional help." Yeah, this guy has literally just bared himself to OP in a text message, and OP responds thinking that he's just trying to throw it in her face. I don't think at all that that's what's happening here. I almost take this as him thanking her for pushing him in the right direction, although she's not seeing it that way because she's huffing and drinking, as she says. I honestly think it's time that OP make another appointment for her therapist as well. Did you know every Karma Stories video is also produced in podcast form? You can search for Karma Stories on every major podcasting platform. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.